Have you got any more? Michael's making some more. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just didn't have enough faith tonight. Only made 25. I'm glad he's up there taking care of that. All right, so we're going to pick up. May seem like a little bit of a separation, but it's going to be, we're really going to be carrying on with the series that we just finished back in September. We started looking at some things specific to the church and church membership and what it is to be part of the church. And we went into October and the first part of November, and we were looking at complementarianism. We were looking at how men and women fit together in the economy of God. And one of the things that we highlighted is what folks usually want to cover when you ask questions like the role of men and women in church, they want to go right to the top 95%, right to the pinnacle. They want to ask questions, things like, can women be pastors? Can women teach? If a woman's teaching, can a man be in the room? Well, when you ask 95% questions, you get 5% answers. Right? And so you think about it kind of like an iceberg. Maybe you guys have seen this image before. You take the Titanic, and you think about the iceberg that hits the Titanic. And for every little bit of an iceberg that's above the water, there's about this much underneath. Kind of gives you an idea of the size of the chunk of ice that puts that big ship down. And so people only want to care about this part up here. And that's why we get into so much trouble. That's why we get into so much trouble in the church. Because we take the bait. And people want to know these things, and we begin to try to answer these questions without establishing all of the things that go down underneath those questions. And so when we said in October, the first part of November, we're going to focus on complementarianism, we did not start up here. And in fact, we still haven't even gotten up here. We started way down here. Imago Dei, the image of God. What makes up the image of God? We looked at the scriptures, and I hope that we came to the understanding and the agreement, the accord that in order to rightly fulfill the Imago Dei, the image of God, requires both male and female. Male alone does not meet this. Neither does female alone. We have to be in there together. And what really complementarianism is not just about how a husband and wife are to interact in a discussion over budget at the house. Complementarianism is how does male and female cover this whole image. So we spend all of that time looking at this and looking at different attributes that tend to be male, tend to be female, in a way that would show, this is how God has designed us as a species in His image to fulfill what He wants done within humanity. But that wasn't the only reason that we started there. The other thing that comes out when the reason we start with the Imago Dei, whenever we're talking about anything in this kind of a context, is because everything in all of history, even if you go to a secular anthropology program that looks at the overall history of humankind, looks at civilizations all over the globe, fulfillment of the Imago Dei is the point of humanity. And if you establish that first, it doesn't just take care of issues about what can women do in the church. It takes care of issues about humanity from start to finish. Because when we put it into that context, we realize that everything that God has done since creation revolves around that Imago Dei. And so I gave you guys an image to kind of take notes on right there at the beginning. Like, why in the world do we have a swirly right here at the beginning? And I don't care, you can start on the inside or the outside, either one, but you're going to find that there is a pattern. There is a pattern that God has followed since creation. All right, so if I start in the middle, I say, okay, God created. And then man fell. Can y'all tell I got in here and practice a little bit before I got here? God created, man fell. God doesn't react in this. He's always known that was going to happen, but he does respond. Okay? He doesn't react, but he does respond. And so God creates, man fails, God chooses an individual. I want you to think about this for just a minute. We're going to start getting our brains flowing here just a minute. Think about the sequence of God's redemptive history. Man falls, and God selects an individual to be a display of his grace. Who's that individual? It's not Adam. I'll help you out here. It's not Adam. Who's the first individual God selects to be a display of his grace? Noah. God creates. God created, man fell. We get to Noah. One man, one person, and his family, his wife and his 3 sons, okay, but everything is flowing through. That's a grace to Noah. Everything's flowing through Noah. God selects one man to demonstrate his grace, and then that carries on for a little while. And there's another fall, right? You have the original fall in the garden, then you have Noah, then you have a second fall at the Tower of Babel, where mankind has come together. You have a fall in the garden, you have a fall with the flood, then you have a fall at Babylon, or the Tower of Babel. Mankind comes together and says, we are going to make ourselves as God. God has to come in and catastrophically intervene again. And he splits the people, he splits the languages, and he puts people all over the earth. All right, so first, he falls. We have Noah, we have Babel, and now we have one family. Who's the one family? Abraham. Next. Isaac and Jacob. Okay. So, God creates, man falls. Noah, we can put flood right here. Noah, we go Bible. We go Abraham. I'm just going to put their initials. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see a pattern forming here? Man goes off the rails, God responds. Man goes off the rails, God responds. Man goes off the rails, God responds. After Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's where we're going to pick up in our notes tonight. He goes from one family. He then thrusts this family into the slavery of Egypt. Where they are exposed to, not necessarily something they did, but they're exposed to all of this paganism, everything, all of the oppression that comes with being in Egypt, all of the destruction and the bondage. And then, for the first time, after Egypt, God calls out not just an individual, not just a family, but he calls out an entire nation of Israel. You guys can move your papers around to do this. I should have thought that one through. Okay? And this is for the first time in human history where God takes a people so large. Really, when you think about Noah, Noah is being displayed in front of all of humanity. They're all around there. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and you consider where they traveled through from Mesopotamia through the Fertile Crest, up around into Syria and Lebanon and coming back down. There was a lot of exposure there. All of the earth heard about what happened in Egypt. The legend and the record of Israel coming out, all of that makes it, to all of humanity to hear, hey, there's this nation down there. 1.5 million people just walked out of the greatest empire on earth, and they walked out without any bloodshed from swords. So everybody knows that. We find record of that in other cultures and other areas around the earth, that everybody knew that. He brings this people out, and now this is where God is really going to start to display what this looks like. And so right there on page 1, we talk about the Imago Dei, part 1, being displayed. And in Deuteronomy 7, 6 to 11, this is what God says through Moses to the nation of Israel. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon thee, nor choose thee, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. And repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him, he will repay him to his face. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments, and the statutes, and the judgments, which I command thee this day, to do them. We talked about this a few times in different settings, that when you think about, if you were to go back and you were to interview an Israelite family, a Hebrew family, Jewish family, in anywhere within the first 2,000 years of Judaism, going all the way back to the crossing of the Jordan, and you were to say, what is the epitome, what is the pinnacle of serving God? What is, if you had anything in all of the law and the prophets that you would live your life up to? Now, Jesus said it was the great commandment, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. If you were to go and you were to ask any Jewish household, okay, can you expand on that a little bit? They would take you to Deuteronomy 6 and 7. That's like the law summed up that says exactly what we're reading here. God has chosen us as a holy people unto himself. And the whole purpose of choosing Israel is to display to the entire world. Think about where Israel is located. If you've ever studied world history, Israel is located at the crossroads of humanity. All trade routes go through Palestine. From southern Europe down into Arabia and into South Asia, from the steppes of Asia, the Mongol hordes, China, come down into Africa. The world creates an X. And Israel is right in the middle of it. Not by accident. And so for all of these thousands of years, God has set a people to display, this is what a relationship with God is supposed to look like. I've taken this nation, I've given them my laws, I've given them my words, I've given them my protection, I've given them my provision, I've given them my blessings, and this is what it looks like for humanity to have a relationship with God. And he sets this up from the very beginning through this nation for all the world to see. And it carries on for one generation. At the end of the book of Joshua, Joshua chapter 24, we find this. And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, and called for the elders of Israel, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers. And they presented themselves before the Lord. And then between verse 1 and verse 14, Joshua rehearses to them a history of everything that God has done to bring them up out of Egypt. And then you get to Joshua 24:14. Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. You see that? Were they serving God when they were a family? No, they were not. When they were in Egypt, they cried out to God for deliverance. They did not serve God. They served paganism. They worshiped the gods of Egypt. They were in bondage there because of that. That led into, that was part of it. It was for their protection, yes, but it's also because they were pulled into that culture and served those. He says, put those things away. Put away the gods of your fathers. Who's he talking about there? Abraham comes out of Ur of the Chaldeans. Abraham was a pagan before God called him. Abraham's father Terah was a pagan. Abraham's uncle Achor, or Nahor, the father of Lot, pagans. They worship who knows what, probably Sumerian gods. And then one day God shows up to Abram, who is a pagan serving someone else, and God speaks to him and he responds. Abram was not born a follower of Jehovah. God brought grace upon him, just as he did Noah. He does it also to Abram. And in his grace, he redeems Abram out of paganism. He redeems Israel out of paganism. And then comes up into verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, which are the ones that are around them, in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people answered and said, God forbid that we should forsake the Lord and serve other gods. For the Lord our God, he it is that brought us up and our fathers out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, which did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way wherein we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. God brought us up out of this. God did these great signs. He preserved us. He gave us his provision. He gave us his protection. He gave us his grace. He gave us his blessings. Why in the world wouldn't we serve him? It just makes perfect sense that we're going to follow after him. Look at everything he's done for us. And Joshua says to them, nah, you're not. You won't. The book of Joshua ends with Joshua warning them, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to stick with him. You're not going to stick with him. And sure enough, they didn't. Now, we're going to put a pin in that, okay? And the reason we're going to put a pin in that is I want you to see a parallel, right? That everything we just talked about in the Old Testament, everything that went into that is about God, God's grace, and redemption displayed. Right? And so you have Noah, Abraham, Israel. And just take my word for it. We're going to look here in a minute. We're going to really dive into this. It doesn't work out. So God starts over. God starts over. You consider it kind of like man fell part 2. And so you come over here on this side. This is part 1. Over here is part 2. God's grace and redemption displayed. Only this time, he starts with Peter, Paul, John, Aquila, and Priscilla, Apollos, Timothy, beside us, and so on. And we find this, how this comes out in 1 Peter chapter 2. Now, how would we sum this up? Jews, how would we sum this up? Church. So he says in 1 Peter chapter 2, 4 through 12, to whom coming as into a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of God and precious, talking about Christ, you also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Wherefore also it is contained in the Scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect and precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious, but unto them which are disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. But ye are a chosen generation. All right, so let's flip back over to the front page. He says to Israel, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. And the Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all the people that are upon the face of the earth. He says to the church through Peter, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. Why? That you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God. Deuteronomy, chosen people. 1 Peter 2, chosen people. Who have not obtained, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lust, which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles. But whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may be by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation. Imago Dei displayed. God's grace and redemption displayed. That's the point. Why does the church exist? The church is a daily, worldwide testimony to the grace and redemption of God in all of humanity. Jew, Gentile, barbarian, Scythian, bond, free, male, female, rich, poor, intelligent, unintelligent, noble, base. Red, yellow, black, white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the people of the world. And so the purpose of the church is to pick up where these folks left off. So remember back in the good old days when you had to take the TCAP standardized test? And you would be given the analogy test. And some of you that are older than TCAP, you probably still had something like that. You would say, dog, bone, horse, fill in the blank. Jello. B, hay. C, steak. D, none of the above. Remember these? All right. Nate, what do you think? What are you going with? Well, okay. Well, that explains a lot. Okay, dog is to bone as horse is to... Hey, thank you. Okay, there's always 10. There's 10 in every crowd. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to kind of look at this tonight to lead into this. Okay, if you can get a horse to eat Jell-O, I'll give you a $20 bill. All right. So here we have part 1 displayed. Part 2 displayed. Now we're going to look at the next part. Part 1 corrupted. And we're going to hold off on this one out here for just a minute. All right, so part 1 displayed, God chooses this people out of nothing. He makes them, He protects them, He provides for them, He guides them, He blesses them. And how do they respond? Judges chapter 2 is an overlap with Joshua chapter 24, Judges 1 and 2. But in Judges chapter 2, talking about the death of Joshua again, verses 6 and 7 says, And when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel went every man unto his inheritance to possess the land. He calls together, remember that in Joshua 24, he called together the tribes of Israel, elders, heads, judges, officers, all leaders. Calls together all leaders. Brings them into this one big assembly, and after he has spoken to them, he has gotten their covenant, their commitment to it. He has set up a rock at Shechem to say, this rock is going to be a witness against you because you're not going to really do this. He turns him loose. And the people serve the Lord. Now, how long? All the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. Skip down to verse 10. And also, all that generation were gathered unto their fathers, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim. So as soon as you lose this generation that has seen all these great works the Lord has done, they've seen all the provision, the protection, the blessing, and the guidance firsthand, everything begins to fall off. Remember God's redemptive pattern. Man falls, God responds. Man falls, God responds. Man falls, God responds. So now man has fallen. His chosen people have fallen. How does God respond? Judges 2, 16 through 19. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges, which delivered them out of the hand of those that spoiled them. And yet they would not hearken unto the judges. But they went whoring after other gods and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord. But they did not so. And when the Lord raised them up judges, then the Lord was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it repented the Lord because of their groanings, by reason of them that oppressed them and vexed them. And it came to pass, when the judge was dead, that they returned and corrupted themselves more than their fathers in following other gods to serve them and to bow down unto them. They ceased not from their own doings, nor from their stubborn way. Now, there are a few verses in that, or a few words in that I want you to highlight. Okay? I want you to highlight verse 18. The Lord was with the judge. The Lord was with the judge. And then in verse 19, I want you to underline or highlight, when the judge was dead, they returned. Okay? And this is the pattern throughout the entire book of Judges. And the reason I want to highlight that is in both of those cases, judge is singular. Okay, this is going to be very important. Judge is singular. God does not raise up judges. He raises up a judge. And when he raises up a judge, it's not just to decide legal cases. The judge, what he's actually doing is that when you think about this judgment, it's like God judges the people around him. God judges the Philistines through Samson. God judges the Assyrians through Jael. God judges the Midianites through Deborah and Barak. Okay? So when it talks about being the judge of Israel, it's like, think of it as like being the hammer of Israel. The one that God has selected. But in every case, God raises up an individual. And all of these continue down until you get to Samuel. We think of Samuel as being the prophet, but Samuel was actually the last judge. And Samuel was a judge, a faithful judge his whole life. He was by far, without any question, the longest standing and the most faithful judge in all of Israel. He served faithfully. The people trusted him. They loved him. They followed him. When Samuel got old, 1 Samuel 2, the first 3 verses say that when Samuel got old, he set his 2 sons, Joel and Abihu, to be judges, but they were corrupt. They took bribes, they chased after money, and that's why in 1 Samuel 2:4, then all the elders gathered themselves together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy way. So what is their response? Make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel. When they said, Give us a king to judge us, and Samuel prayed unto the Lord, and the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. So they take it even one step further in the corruption and say, we don't just want a judge, we want what everybody else has, make us a king. All right, so we're going to stop right here and we're going to take a look at this, what all went wrong. Not just what all went wrong, but how was it supposed to go? It's one thing to say, man, Israel blew it. Man, Israel did everything wrong. But we've got to also follow up with that and say, but what was it supposed to look like? So coming out of Deuteronomy chapter 7, as the people come into the land, they have one leader, Joshua. Okay, let me ask you this. Why didn't Joshua appoint another Joshua? Moses appoints Joshua. Why didn't Joshua appoint another leader of Israel? Anybody got a thought? Think back over the things that we've read. Go back and look at your scripture, Joshua chapter 24. Why didn't Joshua appoint another general, another leader? Well, yeah, they were both weak, but Joshua had the power of Moses. Moses puts his mantle on Joshua. And God comes to Joshua in Joshua chapter 4 and says, so the people know that my blessing is on you as it was with Moses. This is why Jericho is going to fall the way it's going to fall. The whole reason that Jericho is miraculously destroyed is because God is validating Joshua as the leader of Israel. So yes, Caleb was faithful and he was rewarded for that, but Joshua's the guy. Why didn't Joshua appoint a guy? Okay, why didn't God appoint another guy? I mean, it seems pretty simple, right? Moses worked. Joshua worked. So why isn't there a third guy? Why did the responsibility get transferred? Moses? You're exactly right. Keep talking, Debbie. You're right. Finish your thought.
They were going to take over. He thought that they were going to take over. He thought he was going to step in, I guess.
So Joshua knew they wouldn't pull it off because he knew them. But we're not held to what we will do. We're held to what God tells us to do, right? And so, elders, heads. Now what was next? Judges, plural. Judges and officers. Remember back to Exodus 18. Okay? Going all the way back up here. This isn't brand new, okay? Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, comes to him. They're less than 90 days out of Egypt. Less than 90 days out of Egypt. Jethro shows up and says, Moses, this is not working, buddy. You can't be sitting here deciding all of their cases, judging over them from sundown to sundown. You're exhausted. You're miserable. This is not good. You need to set judges and officers and heads over thousands, over hundreds, over 50s, and over 10s. And let them decide the small matters. And if something's really big, they'll bring it to you, but you need to diversify or you're going to die. Moses, go ahead. Exactly right. That's exactly right. And this is who he passes it off to. Exactly right. But Moses even had officers down to there, and on top of that, in Exodus 22, I think it's in 22, God says to Moses, go get 70 elders of the people. Where? Of the people. Keep that in mind, we'll ask you to put a pin in that. 70 elders of the people, not of your family, not of your kids, not of your brothers, not of your cousins. Go out into the people and get 70 elders. You bring them up with you before the tabernacle, and I am going to take the spirit that I have put on you, and I'm going to disperse it amongst those 70. And they come up, and it's interesting, there's 68 that show up. Two of them, Medab and Elihad and Medab are still down in the camp. For some reason, they didn't come up. God disperses the spirit of Moses, and 68 guys that are sitting up there begin to prophesy, begin to speak the word of the Lord in truth, and two guys down in the camp that have been selected do the same thing. And this little fellow that's down in the camp comes running up the hill, and Moses is there, and Joshua's there, and these 68 guys are there, and this little guy comes up and says, hey, there's two lunatics down here that are prophesying and speaking the word of the Lord, and Joshua goes, no, they're not up here, they're not supposed to do that, you tell them to shut up. And Moses goes, no. Moses says this, would to God that all of Israel were prophets. That's a big deal that Moses says that. And that's what that's the point here. That's the point here. Would to God that all of these people did what they were supposed to do. And this is really important. Why do you think they didn't? Oh, well, the other thing that comes in this, okay, so then you come to Joshua, and it says the people served all the days of Joshua and who? And the elders who outlived Joshua, who saw the great works of the Lord. So Moses has elders with him, Joshua has elders with him, and as long as those elders were there, the people served, at least in the open, in public. Thank you. Numbers 11. That he picks those, and they go up, and his spirit is spread up on them. Okay? Now, I know this seems like, just where are you going with this? You just look. The bow will be tied here in just a minute. Right? Because we look at what these guys are doing, and we're like, dummies, ridiculous. Just hold that thought for a minute, okay? So the idea is that these folks are supposed to carry this mantle. They have the word. They actually go in Joshua chapter 3. I'm sorry, in Judges, back up. In Judges chapter 1, these folks actually go before the Lord and say, who's the next army that should go and fight? And the Lord says to them, Judah should go. And they've sent forth the army of Judah and Simeon go and fight together, and they're victorious. So they knew what they were doing. They knew how this was supposed to work. They opted to not do it. And instead, they waited for God to raise up a judge. And then this carries on. I can't remember how many judges are in the book. I think it's 14 to 16, somewhere around in there. Ends with Samuel. So you take these judges down through here, Deborah and Barak, Samson, Gideon, etc. And then you get down to Samuel, who sets his two sons over, Joel and Abed, I think, anyway. And he sets them over. And then after these two get rejected, they say, no, give us a king. And how do they choose their king? What is it about Saul that made him the most appealing choice to be the king? He was a head taller than everybody. He had flowing golden locks. He's a Jew. How many golden locked Jews do you know? None. He has golden locks. He's a head taller than everybody else. He's known to be a man of battle. We'll look over all the personal stuff. We'll look over all the personality, the temper, the depression, all that we'll sit over here. He's real pretty. Okay. He looked the part. No, I'll leave that alone just a minute. You know what he looked like? He looked like Billy Graham. You look at Billy Graham standing on the stage compared to all the people that were with him. I'm not saying Billy Graham picked people to be a foot shorter than him, but Billy Graham was a tall, cut, handsome man. And when people started showing up, he looked the part. Doesn't mean he wasn't faithful, but it does mean that William Randolph Hearst, who owned the largest newspaper syndicate in the country, saw a guy that fit the part in Los Angeles. I think the man was so faithful in his ministry, but Bellevue Baptist Church in Memphis knew that Adrian Rogers looked the part when they picked him. He looked the part. Sorry, guys. Should have picked better. Talk to Mama. She's the one that gave me my jeans, right? Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yep. Thank you for making that correction. So I'll do that on my on my electronic version. All right, so 1 Samuel chapter 8 is where they reject Samuel. 1 Samuel 8, 4 through 8. Just copy paste there. Thank you, Michael, for fixing that. All right. Now remember, what I said was, what we're trying to figure out is, how do we avoid, we don't want this corruption to occur for us. And here's where the challenge comes in with this. All right? Oh, I stepped on my brake, sorry. Michael, you busted my mojo. It happens. There it goes. All right. Now here's where the challenge comes in for us. We know how this turns out. Okay? The Bible tells us we have 1,000 years of history. Notice I put this ... We don't know what the second generation of the church looked like from the Bible.